The way of transgressors is hard to quit. You're listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips, where we present audiobook quality readings of the classics for your enjoyment. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, just because you're a bumpkin doesn't mean you can't be cultured. Hello and welcome to The Cultured Bumpkin. I love history, culture, literature, things like that. And one of the places that I really like reading about, studying, traveling in, learning about is the West, the American West. And has anybody ever seen those old leather-bound Time Life books? It's like the soldiers, the miners, the pioneers, those like that history series. Have you ever seen those? Well, when I grew up, my grandpa on my mom's side, Grandpa Loftus, had what I suppose was the whole set. It was a bunch of them. And anytime we went to visit, I would just spend hours reading the history of the Old West from the leather-bound Time Life books that a lot of you have probably know what I'm talking about. You can still get them on, I think, some used books places for, pretty cheap because they're not in print anymore, to my knowledge, even though they probably should be. Anyway, I've been reading through a lot of those lately because I was at a Hispanic flea market in downtown Nashville, long story, and I found 15 of these books, and I got them for a little over $1 each because it was just like a book sale type of thing. I was like, I'll take them, give them $25 and got 15 books. And super pumped about that. Really a great addition to the old library. So as I'm reading it, a lot of these just have some magnificent little caveats, little stories, little bits from the Old West that are so fascinating and that I don't want to die. I want people to hear about it. And if you have this set, definitely read them. And if you don't, maybe you should look for them. And I want to read this little nugget to you because I think it's so interesting. Also, I know there's a lot of you listeners that are not in the U.S. So two things, even if you are in the U.S., I love local history, local folklore even. And if you have a story from your area, I would love to hear it. You can email it to me, jakephillips116@gmail.com. Find a way on the links underneath this in the show notes to get in touch with me. I want to hear it from you. And then if you're from the UK or Canada or Germany, Belgium, Spain, Mexico, anywhere else that I have a lot of listens from, by all means, I would love to hear that because to me, culture doesn't mean you know everything, to be cultured, but I think it means you're curious about it and you're always trying to learn till the last. You always want to learn about not only yourself but about others and that kind of thing. So if you know anything, if you know any cool stories, let me know. Well, here's a very interesting story that comes from, I guess it would be the Yukon Territory, which is now Canada, but it's still, the Old West. Still, it was the late 1890s, and there was this guy named Soapy Smith, right? And he had a sort of what was called a traveling carnival of crime. Now, the author, Robert Wallace, is the one that wrote about Soapy Smith. But it goes like this. And there's a picture of the guy in the book. And he's standing at the bar. He's got his foot up on the little foot rest along the bar. There's a lot of well-dressed gentlemen behind him. And he himself is well-dressed, has a three-piece suit, a watch fob. He's a bearded guy. He has a hat sort of stuck on the back of his head, a cowboy-style hat on the back of his head. He's got his hand up on the bar. And everyone is gathered around for a picture because he was apparently pretty well known. And also, 4 days after this, he was killed in a gunfight after the this picture was taken. But anyway, it says the king of the mining camp rogues was a transplanted Georgian known as Soapy Smith, who fleeced prospectors clear across the West from Colorado to Alaska. Born Jefferson Randolph Smith, Jr., Soapy turned up in Leadville, Colorado in 1885 and soon earned his nickname by displaying a dazzling mastery of the soap game. Before a crowd, Smith would flash a roll of bills ranging from $1 to $100. He would wrap, or appear to wrap, the bills around bars of soap, cover them with paper, and toss them in a basket. Anyone could pick a bar for $5. If he was lucky, he might win $100. But so dexterous was Soapy that no one, except his shills, ever came up with more than $2. So he raps, he's just a con man, like this game of chance, which was a lot of times really big in those western towns when everybody's from out of town. Like there's no locals, and the oldest resident there has only been there a few weeks because the town's not very old. Wrap his bills in bars of soap, put them in a basket, and then hey, keep whatever's on the bar of soap, and nobody ever won. Moving on to Denver, Soapy became the acknowledged leader of that boomtown's underworld. Some of his best allies were barbers who would, while sprucing up a newcomer, assay his wealth. If he appeared loaded, the barber cut a V into his hair in the back, whereupon one of Soapy's men would lure the easy mark to the Tivoli Saloon and Gambling Hall, there to part him with his money. I mean, literally, he had the barbers working for him, notching the back of guys' necks so they could pick out targets. By August 1897, Soapy was in Skagway preying on the Klondikers. So that's way up north in Yukon Territory and another gold rush, right? One of his more imaginative swindles was a phony telegraph office, which charged $5 for messages home. The Klondiker always got a return message. Collect, of course. Rascal. He's what the Bible would call wise to do evil. If he would have used that ingenuity to figure out a problem or have an honest living, he would have been a lot better off. Soapy's downfall came when some of his henchmen brazenly robbed a miner of almost $3,000 in gold. A delegation of Skagway town fathers demanded restitution. Soapy refused, and in the ensuing showdown was shot to death by the town surveyor. For all his predatory nature, Soapy was an easy touch for anyone down on his luck, and he donated to the churches. But that was as far as he went in quieting his conscience. The way of the transgressors, he often liked to say, quoting from the Proverbs of Solomon in the Bible, is hard to quit. Old Soapy Smith from the Old West, one of the tales of the Old West. A lot of great writing came out of the West. So you have Bret Harte and stories like The Luck of Roaring Camp, which we haven't done yet, and I'm about to do some of his. And also Robert Service in Songs of the Sourdough. So you have The Cremation of Sam McGee and some of the Klondike poems and stuff like that. Jack London would be another one I forgot to mention. Call of the Wild, that sort of thing. Love of Life, To Build a Fire, stuff like that. By the way, if you want to listen to my stuff, here's a great place to do it, right here on the podcast. Also, you can subscribe to my YouTube, link in the show notes. And, of course, YouTube runs ads on their stuff. If you don't like ads, you could either get a pop-up blocker, or you could pay $3 a month, cancel anytime, and join my Patreon. You get ad-free. Anything I post there is ad-free. And then you get stuff like, coupons for merch and things like that if you are so inclined. Anywho, check out the links in the description, and thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips. Thank you very much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, would you mind going and subscribing and leaving a nice review on whatever podcast platform podcast platform you heard this on. I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.